then found, and very possibly murdered. Her father says there is nothing that will end his grief and bring her back. But there is one thing he says will help. Pay attention, he says, to the missing and murdered women in Montana who are being ignored.
Native American women are the most stalked, raped, and murdered of any women in America.
They go missing, they're found dead. What's the pattern?
Selena's the 28th one in Bighorn County that hasn't been investigated.
Their voices need to be heard.
If a non-tribal person commits a murder on a reservation, tribal police can't even make the arrest.
Why are these cases not being investigated?
Did you guys know that? Tribal police can't even make an arrest. Isn't that crazy? I heard stories about traveling on the reserve and they'll steal your car and stuff. Maybe there's a good reason for it.
No arrest, no charges brought. It keeps happening over and over and over again.
I feel like I have a target on my back.
We need to stop this.
Joining me now is the host of the documentary, who just happens to be a former criminal prosecutor, Lonnie Combs. Also with me, the film's forensic expert, Joseph Scott Morgan of Jacksonville State University. Welcome to both of you. Lonnie, I'm going to begin with you. It's a very simple question. These are American women. Why are these murder cases, and I mean, that's the top of the chain in criminal justice, why are they being ignored?
That's right. You know, Ashley, it is a shocking crisis that's going on that I think so many people are unaware of. The reason why it's gone on so long, the numbers are so great and overwhelming, a number of factors. One, our Native American women, for many, many years, the history is systemic racism, discrimination, and sexism. I mean, it started out where the young girls were used as property to barter, and that attitude that they are invisible, that they're not worthy of being protected or looked after has carried on through the years. There's also a lot of lack of resources for the law enforcement agencies that govern these areas, as well as this jurisdictional issue that is a real problem in these cases. You have tribal lands, and there are tribal police that are supposed to govern those lands, but you also have local police, state police, and federal police. And as was stated in that clip, there's this issue with tribal police not being able to arrest non-Native Americans who come onto the tribal lands and commit crimes. So they have to call for help to the local or state or federal level. And many times when that call for help goes out, it is not responded to. They don't have time, they don't have the resources, they don't have enough deputies to go out there, or it just falls to the cracks. They're saying, well, where did these girls actually go missing? We don't know. And they start pointing the fingers at each other, and no one picks up the case and actually actively investigates.
So the statistics that we were looking at, they're just really heartbreaking, and they're also just frankly unbelievable, and that's not hyperbole. So number one, Indigenous women and girls are murdered at 10 times the rate than any other ethnicity. They are 2 times more likely to be raped, and murder is the 3rd leading cause of death, and that's according to the CDC. Joe, when you signed on to this project, I wondered about the forensics in all of this, and if there's something political in the forensics. I mean, is it different than the average case that you look at?
Yeah, it is. And I think to Lonnie's point, a lot of it comes down to the absence of communication between many of these groups. You have a total and complete breakdown when it comes to accountability. You know, you begin to think about the coroner, you begin to think about maybe a state medical examiner, and a lot of the data gets lost in the mix. And so when you're looking for patterns, particularly from a forensic standpoint, and you've got all of these cases, as you have mentioned, that go from reservation to reservation to reservation, there's no way to kind of compile this data relative to typologies, the types of women that are being victimized. If you've got serial perpetrators who, you know, has been pointed out that these women are easily victimized. And a lot of these situations, you've got major interstates that are running right through these areas, which essentially makes them easy targets for human trafficking and for people that would certainly not have their best interest at heart.
When we come back after the break, there is also that question of something that if you hear the word cold case, it means something entirely when it comes to the forensics in these cases, meaning the cold. It's an easy excuse for why someone dies. We're gonna...
Just crazy. What are you doing, Bootsy? All right. Here's Bootsy. You're being noisy. What's going on with you? Here, go run around. Go cause trouble. So I want to talk about that for a second. Lots of Indigenous women going missing. So I think they're saying 7,000 Native American women have gone missing since 2016. So I want to bring up a few topics tonight, and I want to do it in hopes that you guys will call in and not be afraid to express your opinions or your viewpoints. And, you know, maybe we can open some doors into some other things that we should look at. And there's a lot of things in the news right now that we need to talk about. This was WFLA today. They came out with a top 10 unanswered questions. Rabbit's eating my phone. Top 10 unanswered questions about Gabby Petito. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting when I was watching this earlier today was they are in contact with, you know, Joe Petito and Nicole Schultz. What if they've got some inside information that we're going to get some news tomorrow or something? And maybe that's why they came out with this top 10 unanswered questions. It's just, maybe it's just my own hope, but maybe, just maybe, we're going to get some information here soon. Another thing that you guys showed me today was this Dawn Wells interview. And I'll play it from here. And this was just awful.
Kids in Eastern Tennessee now.
Yeah.
And then off one reservation in Oklahoma, there's 500 missing children over the years. And then there's another reservation in Arizona, similar situation. A lot of little kids missing. Wow, man. That's why I said something to TBI. I said a bunch of mean stuff. I was just so mad. I mean, why can't they figure this out? What's up, baby? No, party. Or go party.
Go potty.
Kansas gotta go to the potty?
Yeah.
Is she drunk?
Of
She drinking?
course.
Ask Molly, can you hear me?
No. Well, no. Well, no, I heard her.
She likes nibbling on all my
When's
stuff.
Summer's birthday?
Who's?
Summer, your daughter? When's her birthday?
Summer's birthday, baby.
Love her reaction.
What is Summer's birthday?
You don't know?
Yes, we don't know.
Look at her. She's about to
You're
jump
telling
out of
me
her
that you
skin.
and your wife Candace does not know when your daughter's birthday is.
Hey, now.
You just did.
I'll just stop it there. That is, she's ready to jump out of her skin. If she could reach through that Skype call or that StreamYard, oh, she would throttle him. That's crazy. I mean, some parents shouldn't be parents. That's incredible. Are you going to eat my remote control now too? Hey. Sorry. Rabbit distraction. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Some parents shouldn't have kids. So now I found this really good little video from the New York Times today, and this is on the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting. And it kind of sets a really good tone for the explosiveness of the area. And I don't know if you guys have seen this yet.
A police officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin shoots a black man named Jacob Blake. 7 times from behind, leaving him partially paralyzed. Two days later, in the midst of protests and unrest, a teenager carrying an assault rifle kills 2 people and wounds a third. Now that shooter, 18-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 at the time, is standing trial on charges of murder. The case will likely focus on the few crucial minutes around the fatal shootings on August 25th of 2020. But our investigation of these events reveals that the story is about much more than a single person. We analyzed hours of footage from that day and traveled to Kenosha just weeks after the events to hear from witnesses, several of whom have now been subpoenaed in the Rittenhouse trial.
It felt volatile, it felt tense, it felt like a war zone.
We're not like bad people or like people just going out to like shit up.
I feel like had we not been there and not reacted the way that we did to the situation, I think we could have been looking at an even worse scenario.
We also spoke with the sheriff who led law enforcement's response that night.
Surely some of you've got some opinions on Rittenhouse today. Go ahead and call in on the StreamYard. We can pause the video at any time and discuss anything you want. I'm not sure where I stand on this yet. I don't know. He's only got split seconds to react, but he went down there in the first place. So I don't know, 17. He's not like a trained Marine or anything like that. I don't know. In Canada, you can't walk around with an AK-47. So if we do any hunting out here, it's to get a deer or a moose or an elk. Yeah, so.
Which has become the subject of lawsuits. While protests against systemic racism were what first drew out crowds in Kenosha, Rittenhouse, his victims, and many of those closest to the shootings were white. What we found was a complex set of motivations on the streets that night that reflected the growing polarization in the country and helped set the scene for violence.
Oh shit. We got shots fired, guys. We got shots fired.
On the Sunday before the Rittenhouse shooting, Kenosha police officers respond to a domestic complaint and try to arrest Jacob Blake. As Blake moves away from them and leans into his car, he's holding a knife. An officer shoots him. Blake's lawyer later said that Blake didn't pose a threat. Video of the shooting quickly spreads online.
To hear about it is one thing, but to watch it, I guess it got to the point where, how many more?
There we go.
Corey Washington, who's a local live streamer and now subpoenaed in the Rittenhouse trial, arrives to document the situation.
Let's check the scene out over here.
I mean, there's tons of people already starting to gather there. In the air, you can kind of feel the tension. At a certain point, more sheriffs arrived on the scene, and their presence kind of aggravated the crowd. And from there, it just started going crazy.
For the next 48 hours, the protests intensified. And at night, local businesses are looted and set on fire. Eventually, a new group inserts themselves into the already chaotic scene. Dozens of men, mostly white, equipped with military-style weapons and gear. And soon, a Facebook post will incite more of them to come. It's Tuesday morning, 13 hours before the Rittenhouse shooting, when on a Facebook page called the Kenosha Guard, a post publishes.
So my post just basically said, are there any patriots among us willing to take up arms and defend our lives, our families, our neighborhoods, and our businesses?
The author of the post is Kevin Mathewson, a controversial former city councilman who's now been subpoenaed in the Rittenhouse trial.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to gather here. There's about 10 of us.
Hours after his post, thousands have seen it, and Mathewson arrives at Civic Center Park, the epicenter of the recent protests.
When you burn down a building, you're risking lives. Right? I wanted people to come play defense. I wanted people to come to protect themselves.
But did any business owners ask you for help, for protection?
I was not asked directly by a business to defend anybody.
At this point, demonstrators are marching peacefully in downtown Kenosha. They're demanding an end to police violence against Black people. The presence of openly armed white men inflames the situation.
If you're not for Black Lives Matter and you're not for the movement, get the fuck out of here. Then quit burning the fucking town down.
Why is he here, and why is it okay that he's here with an assault rifle to protect infrastructure? But if I was here against the police to protect life, would I be able to?
The Second Amendment is meant for everybody. It's not exclusive to white people.
Out of everyone that I saw with the militia,
Come on, somebody call in.
white males. So I honestly feel that they came to incite more racial problems.
Portia Bennett, who's a local activist, has been protesting for the last 2 days.
You get to see the people now that you have been living around forever. There are no more masks being worn.
Are there some truly peaceful protesters that may have been a little intimidated about seeing an armed person with a gun? Probably, but the Second Amendment is very clear, and my rights don't end where somebody else's feelings begin.
Throughout the day and early into the evening, more openly armed men arrive near the protests. Some position themselves close to businesses that had been damaged on earlier nights. This is where we first see.
Have y'all seen this video? Am I just showing you guys something you've already seen? I thought this was really good, especially watching the trial today. I was able to piece together all the different roads and where these guys were sitting.
Ryan Balch, an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran from a town 40 minutes away, who's there with a group of friends. He's also been subpoenaed in the Rittenhouse trial.
I would say what brought me to Kenosha was that I felt like something needed to be done. If law enforcement's not going to try to keep the peace, then somebody else needs to go out there and make sure that that happens.
Balch argues that his military training gave him the skills to help bring events under control.
We kind of trusted ourselves to insert ourselves in that situation and bring the situation to the correct conclusion.
At the time, he also supported the extremist Boogaloo movement, which is anti-police and calls for the government's overthrow. He says he later stopped supporting the movement. Balch and his friends eventually link up with other openly armed men. Among them is Kyle Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse is 17 years old. He's from Illinois and isn't legally allowed to carry a gun in Wisconsin. Balch says he didn't know Rittenhouse or the people he was with, but decided to team up with them anyway.
They weren't on the level of me and my guys. I don't think they trained formally together at all. But the more guys you got, the better off you are.
As for Rittenhouse, we don't know whether he sees himself as some kind of neutral force between the protesters and the police, like Ryan does. His social media posts at the time seemed to indicate he was a strong supporter of law enforcement. Since the shooting, he's also been seen flashing white power signs. And he's become.
Does anybody know what that white power sign means?
An icon for far-right groups. Soon, Balch and Rittenhouse will come face to face with racial justice protesters.
It's past the curfew. Still have a fairly large crowd out here.
The organized daytime protests at the park are now over, and law enforcement has announced a curfew.
Our goal that entire evening was to disperse people from the Civic Center after curfew and to get them to leave, to get them to go home.
Kevin Mathewson, who'd called for the presence of armed civilians that morning, says he left because he was worried about the safety of his family 10 miles away.
My wife was on the phone with me saying, hey, get your ass home. Kids are scared. I'm scared.
breaking curfew was worth helping to create some type of positive change. It's one thing to sit at home and say that, yes, Black Lives Matter, but it's so much more impactful to put another body on the street.
Nathan Pete has been demonstrating in Kenosha for days, but tonight's protest is different, and he's carrying a gun.
I don't normally like to carry at protests because I don't want it to be seen as a sign of aggression, but I did carry on Tuesday specifically because of the threats that I saw floating around in the Kenosha Guard group.
Just arriving at the protest are Hannah Giddings and her boyfriend, Anthony Huber. Both are unarmed, but by night's end, Huber will be shot and killed by Kyle Rittenhouse. Giddings has now been subpoenaed for Rittenhouse's trial.
I wouldn't really say we were like heavy activists or anything previously, but we knew Jake Blake and felt like we needed to be present and standing united with the people who believe the same things that we do and want basic human rights, civil rights, equality.
The standoff between protesters and the police becomes more violent.
If anybody get hurt out here, it's on y'all.
Everything started to move super quickly. Police and riot gear all yelling to disperse and go home. You're breaking curfew.
I got grabbed by the police. And he threatened to lock me up if he caught me out there again at night. I just went home.
Faced with this massive show of force, only a small number of protesters choose to stay. Among the shrinking crowd is Gage Grosskreutz, a paramedic from Milwaukee, who's also under subpoena for the Rittenhouse trial.
When you go into a protest or a march in a medic capacity, you're essentially waiving that luxury to be able to pick a side because, ethically speaking, you're there to treat everybody.
Like Nathan Pete, Grosskreutz decided to come armed with a handgun.
Because it's my right. Simple as that.
He'll later be shot by Kyle Rittenhouse after drawing his gun and trying to stop him.
The park is closed.
It was going the direction we wanted it to go.
To the unlawful assembly.
Law enforcement has one clear plan on this night.
We're not going to let the city of Kenosha burn because you want to, in the late evening hours, start destroying stuff.
Over the course of the next 2 hours, officers forced some of the protesters southeast, across the park, and onto this street, Sheridan Road, in the direction of the openly armed civilians. Balch, Rittenhouse, and other armed men are still stationed a few blocks down the road, near businesses that were damaged on previous nights.
I think that the police set the stage for it. They knew that there were armed groups down there. And they could have not pushed the protesters down Sheridan.
The sheriff told us that the police didn't plan for the armed presence down the road.
What did you tell your deputies to do if they encountered armed militia people?
By the time I think I knew that they were out there doing this, our staff was already deployed out there protecting the area. There was no direction to deal with the Kenosha Guard in any way at that point. We were midstream on this one, and we were going.
Carly,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
Hold on. There we go. I've got it figured out. Sorry.
No worries.
So I don't think he should have been there. He's 17. He shouldn't have had a gun, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, what would have happened if he hadn't been there?
Probably the
You
whole
know?
town would have burned, or they would have got the other buildings too.
Like, I was watching bits and pieces of the trial today, and he's like, oh, I was out cleaning graffiti. And I was like, no, he wasn't. Sure enough, though, there's pictures of him out cleaning graffiti that day. And I was like, oh, he's a good kid. Okay. And yeah, he was being attacked. Like, I don't know what anybody expected him to do in that case. He would have died if he didn't.
Yeah. I'm thinking that now too, right? And he didn't have like 30 seconds to decide. Like when he fell down, those two guys he shot, that was like literally 1 second decision. And the other guy that was chasing him, the crazy dude, You'll see that later in this video. I mean, that was again. I mean, he was pinched off by those cars, and he didn't have any other choice, I don't think. But at the end of the day, I still haven't seen enough to really formulate an opinion one way or the other yet.
The other day, the prosecution's like star witness.
Yeah, no, it's coming up. It's coming up. Hold it.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
Okay.
It's really good. What did you think about the lawyer today, the prosecution lawyer? Like, I thought he was just being a complete ass, like, the whole day.
I mean, well, according to his star witness, like, he's not super great at being a prosecutor in the first place, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if he should even be there.
Like, that judge was at his wit's end with that guy today. Like, I don't know if the trial's going to even continue anymore. Like, if that guy keeps going like that, it's just going to be declared
Just
a mistrial.
asking idiotic questions, yes or no questions. You can't do that. You can't be a prosecutor asking questions, or that, like, even, and then leading questions. Oh God.
Well, that's what those lawyers try to do, right? That's what they argue, is they get to the gray area and then they try to tiptoe across that line every once in a while. And he was just tiptoeing straight over it all day today. So
it was really bad.
It was really, really bad, I thought. So
not
crazy.
for Kyle, actually. It was pretty good for him.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna get to that. It's coming up here. If you want to stay on, I'll just play it.
Yeah, I'll stay on.
It already had.
And we got the militia here.
Once protesters and openly armed civilians encounter each other, there's a confrontation.
Protect your property, not the street!
As Balsh and his group argue with protesters, Pete is live streaming.
Between Ryan and his group and the other protesters, I definitely felt quite a bit of tension. There were a couple very, very hot-headed members of his group actively agitating protesters.
You guys want to fuck around and find out?
Hey.
Balsh tells protesters to keep moving.
The cops are straight up with us that they were going to push y'all to us, have y'all get pissed off at us, and then wrap you guys the fuck up.
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to push everybody on and move fast.
One of the militia members claimed that a police officer told him that the officers were going to push the protesters out of Civic Center Park and that the militia would handle them.
I don't believe that for a second.
The police continue pushing protesters further down the road to this intersection near a gas station.
Whoa. Yeah, watch out. They got their guns up.
Hey, they're just trying to protect their property. Hey, no one touch anyone.
They're racist and they're out here to look cool.
Here is where we first see Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person Kyle Rittenhouse fatally shoots that night. He joins the fight against the armed civilians,
Shoot me, nigga! Shoot me, nigga!
as other protesters try to stop him.
Hey, stop! Hey, they're gonna get us all shot!
Rosenbaum has just been released from the hospital after undergoing mental health treatment. His reasons for being here are unclear, and he doesn't appear to have attended a protest before. But his actions on this night will add to an already volatile situation. At this point, the group of protesters has thinned out even more.
All of this is done pretty much in the name of Black Lives Matter. And there's definitely Black people in the crowd, but there definitely was more white people.
The armed men chalk up any conflict with the protesters to miscommunication.
We had some negative interactions, but that was more of a confusion on their part about what we were about.
But many of the protesters feel uncomfortable with the armed presence. They accuse Balsh and others of playing vigilante.
Why else are you going to show up, especially Kyle Rittenhouse, show up to a city you don't even live in, armed to the teeth to protect your community? This is not your community, pal. You don't live here.
You guys protecting that building? Yes! Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But the police praise the armed men and offer them assistance.
Need water? We'll give you a couple. We appreciate you guys. We really do.
This is not the group of people we want here, but you can open carry weapons. So there wasn't a violation of the law.
But just like the protesters, the armed civilians are violating the curfew, and police treat them much differently.
After that curfew, it didn't seem like police was trying to actively disperse or arrest any of the armed civilians. Why is that?
I'm not aware of any of the protesters that weren't being violent that were arrested either. Peaceful people were not getting arrested that night.
Hey, Dad, if you can keep people from pointing their guns at the crowd.
The armed men appear emboldened by the inaction of the police towards them. Minutes after encountering the officers, Rittenhouse explains to a reporter from the Daily Caller why he thinks he belongs in Kenosha.
Our job is to protect this business, and part of my job is to also help people. If there's somebody hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle.
It's about 15 minutes until he'll fire his first shot. At this point, several of the people we've been hearing from are now close to each other, and the situation is about to turn deadly. Nathan Pete is filming from here. Hannah Giddings and her boyfriend Anthony Huber are nearby. Corey Washington is here. His footage captures both Gage Grosskreutz and Ryan Balch walking by. Then Kyle Rittenhouse runs past his camera.
I had been looking kind of at him the entire time because he looked young, he had a gun. So at the point where I see him run by me, I was like, that's weird. So I followed down in that direction.
I'm already trying to, but let's check it out, right?
Rittenhouse walks towards a parking lot where cars are being vandalized. He passes Joseph Rosenbaum, who was fighting with the armed men at the gas station earlier. Rosenbaum now starts chasing Rittenhouse and throws a plastic bag that holds his belongings from the hospital. Close behind them, a man holds up a handgun and fires it. We don't know why. Then Rosenbaum lunges towards Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse fires 4 times.
Had I been in his shoes getting chased, and then I heard a gunshot.
Like, that's literally a quarter of a second to react to that. That is just...
He reacted correctly, or he would have been killed.
I agree. Like, I mean, he already saw that guy at the gas station, and he was just released from a mental hospital. Like, I don't know. You just get a feeling for some people, and yeah, what do you do? Like,
He was obviously being very aggressive and was not going to be friendly at all.
And Rittenhouse is only 17 years old. Can you imagine? Like, he has no experience to deal with that. He's probably never even been in a massive fist fight.
God, I can't say that I would have done anything differently.
Rosenbaum, who's been hit, falls to the ground. There are 3 more shots from someone else in the parking lot.
Oh shit. We got shots fired, guys. We got shots fired.
Pop, 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 pop. And I was like, oh, so they are really shooting.
I gotta find some cover.
Oh man, maybe they really are really just trying to kill people. And if they were going to take advantage of a situation, I'm a black person and I don't want to be a target.
Rittenhouse calls a friend, while others are helping Rosenbaum, who's on the ground. Then he flees the scene.
He didn't disarm himself after the first shooting. He continued to run around. As a gun owner, I view his actions as completely irresponsible.
You come running through looking wild with a gun on you, people are going to think that you're doing something wild with a gun on you. So they reacted the way they should have reacted.
And as soon as they were all saying he shot somebody, Anthony was gone. And I tried to grab onto him and nobody was going to stop him, you know? And then I hear a bunch more gunshots down the road and I was like, I just had a feeling it was him.
Rittenhouse trips and falls. Anthony Huber hits Rittenhouse with a skateboard and attempts to disarm him. Rittenhouse shoots him in the chest.
Wow.
Here is Gage Grosskreutz with his gun drawn. He also gets shot and calls out for help.
I need a fucking medic! Let me try to get on the back.
The reality of it is this is going to be a part of my life from here on out.
Keep him right there. We're coming out to you.
Rittenhouse runs toward police vehicles and raises his hands.
Hey, he just shot them! Hey, dude right here just shot them!
The police make no attempt to stop him, and he isn't arrested until the next day.
I didn't talk to them, but I'm sure they didn't know what this person was doing.
Sad.
I'm just looking for my partner. Like, I'm just trying to find where he went. I knew he had been shot, you know? And then later on, I saw that video. They had pulled Anthony into that truck like minutes before I got there.
Both Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber die from their injuries.
Dude, Anthony Huber, man, he went down like a hero. You know, he thought there was a threat there and he was reacting to it. He just wasn't quick enough to react to that threat. And so, I mean, he got a really good death out of that.
He was 26. He had like... It's just like brutally cruel and unfair how that can just be snatched away like that by anybody who feels like it. Yeah. It's awful. It's awful. And there's no words to say to like make that feel any better.
I believe truly in my heart that if it wasn't for my actions and these brave men and women who answered my call to arms, I think that we would have seen a way worse outcome than what we saw.
But 2 people died.
Yeah, 2 people died, and that's terrible. But when you have people burning down buildings, there's always that chance life is going to be lost.
Who were the good guys and who were the bad guys that night? I don't think there were any. I think the militia guys and the protesters were just individuals who were stuck in a situation and were doing the best they could with it.
Kyle came here and he played cowboy. He played vigilante. He came here looking for a confrontation and he found one.
Who's responsible? I can't tell you. You know, I guess everyone who was there that night holds some level of responsibility. And
I think that's well said. Everybody that was there, whether you were a rioter or you were trying to defend businesses, definitely. I think everyone played their role.
who carries the most, I can't tell you.
Why didn't you guys arrest him right then and there? Because if it would have been one of us, things would have happened a lot faster and a lot differently.
Some people feel like Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero. Some people feel like he is a murderer. I feel personally that the situation, regardless of what was happening, should have resulted in something completely different and not people dying.
Isn't that crazy? Like the police officer that shot that guy in the car where all this basically exploded from, he faces no charges. And all that guy had was a knife. I mean, Kyle was facing a gun in his face and a crazy person chasing him at full speed. Like,
here's the thing that I know is going to be an unpopular opinion. That girl, she wants to be like, you came to a city that you're not even from, like, but his family lives there. And he felt that he had to do something because nobody was really doing anything. They were just burning buildings down. Was she out there cleaning graffiti off of any buildings? I didn't see her in any of those pictures. That's all I'm saying. Like, what was she doing besides being on the wrong end?
Yeah, I mean, there was some people there that were actually just protesting, right? It's just the bad apples that start things on fire. And I mean, the protests, I have no problems with the protests, but I don't know. There's a time when you don't burn down your own city. I mean, that causes a lot of damage as well.
Yeah, accept the help that is coming, like he didn't have to go there and do that, but he chose to. And he's clearly suffered a lot of trauma from that. And so, he didn't have to put himself through that, but he did that. And it didn't go well, and that sucks. But maybe it could have been worse. Maybe it wouldn't have been, but we don't know.
True. How true. So what do you think about Gabs? Do you think we're going to actually get some information on her tomorrow?
No idea.
I'm just trying to be hopeful. So I tell you, did you see Masa today? Masa was in some kind of mood today. Holy smokes. I've never seen her like that.
I didn't watch that whole thing. I was kind of in and out.
Well, you're in for a treat because I'm going to play it now while I go get a pop, try to catch my rabbit, and have a cigarette. So I'll play JB. I'm sure you guys haven't had your fill of JB in a long time. So I'm going to play JB and yeah. I'm going to boot you out though, okay, Carly?
Go ahead.
Just in case you take over my stream and start swearing or showing naked.
Oh, because I will. I'll be terrible.
Well, I could come back and you could be topless and I could have 1 million viewers. Like, I just got to be careful.
I'm like, look, I know why I don't have my camera on.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. I'm going to give you guys some JB right now.
Well, I think the biggest question...
We're going to be going over a lot over the next hour here with us. So to everybody joining us here on Facebook and YouTube, hello there to you again. We're going to be featuring your comments here using the hashtags you see on your screen, as we do here interactively on WFLA Now. You can use hashtag HeyMasa, hashtag HeyWalt, or hashtag HeyJB in the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or on Twitter, in those comment sections or on Twitter, and we'll be able to feature your comments over the course of our interactive stream here as we talk about the next steps in the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie investigation. We also have video questions coming your way here as well. But I'm going to throw up Masa and Walt here first. Guys, this has been several weeks now since we've been talking about this story here live on WFLA Now. Masa, I'll start with you. The case now entering, as I said, unknown territory because all of the work now being done behind the scenes. And what is the next step in your estimation?
Well, I think the biggest question right now that is still unanswered is what happened to Brian Laundrie. We know that he's dead. We found that out on October 21st when the FBI notified us that using dental records, they were able to confirm that Brian Laundrie is dead. We still don't know the manner of death. We don't know if this was homicide, if this was suicide, if he died of natural causes, if this was an accident, and certainly we don't know the cause of death. I understand, Walt, and feel free to jump in here, but I understand that anthropologists are still in the process of examining the remains. And as of right now, that could take several weeks. And what are we, 3 weeks out? More than 3 weeks out,
and
right?
It's interesting because this case for so long offered some sort of breaking development every day, like some surprise every day. And now we've been several weeks without it. And I hear from people who say they want to know. And I think the next shoe to drop is the results of that autopsy, the anthropologists working on that. We really don't know. We've heard, not necessarily from an official source, how much of the remains they actually have. But I mean, it's possible. We may never know the exact cause of death or the manner of death, but that is the next shoe to drop. And then you wonder, what does the FBI do with it? I don't know if they're in any obligation legally to actually build a case because they're not going to trial. Obviously, do they come up with a conclusion and release it? Do they come up with a conclusion and not release it? Do they do it for the family? Do they do it because of the public interest, which is huge in this case? But and here's my question, and I don't know the answer. Maybe you do, JB, the theory here. If we get our evidence, when we get evidence in a case, it's usually after it's released in court. there will be no case. So do they have to tell us?
Could be a civil case.
Right. Well, there you go. That's where we may see everything as a civil case. Yeah.
Could be a civil case.
Yeah. But the big thing is that I think that we get asked over and over is that
It could
notebook.
be a criminal case against some other party
Right.
involved.
So
potentially.
that's right. That's a really good point. Like if somebody else helped him or somewhere along the way he got any help, yeah, they could be building that case, and then we would see the evidence. So
And that would be in the hands of Rick Stafford. That's the family attorney for Gabby Petito's family. Of course, Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom, and Joe Petito, Gabby's father, and then of course, can't forget about Tara and Joe, stepmother and stepfather, respectively. So it'll be interesting to see if whether or not this ever does reach a courtroom in a civil fashion. We have heard that, of course, the forensic examiners, the anthropologists are examining the skeletal remains. The dental records confirmed, as Massa noted, are that of Brian Laundrie. It could be, we have heard from experts in the fields of anthropology and others that the remains themselves, that examination process could take several weeks. And that was a couple of weeks ago. So it could be later this month. It could be in early December. But we are anticipating at some point the FBI giving us something.
Yes, they'll tell us what happened.
What happened? Let's not forget, after Gabby Petito's remains were discovered, out of nowhere, there was a press conference by the Teton County coroner where they announced that the results of that autopsy, the cause of death, the manner of death was manual strangulation, throttling. Could we have, I guess, here's what we don't know. We know that we're going to get some information on the cause of death for Brian Laundrie, whether it's inconclusive, definitively inconclusive, whether or not they actually have determined a cause of death or a likely cause of death. But Massa, while I don't know if that's going to occur in a press release, a tweet from FBI Denver or FBI Tampa, we don't know if there's going to be a similar press conference like we had in Teton County, Wyoming. Are we going to have a similar press conference in Sarasota County, Florida? I have made those calls. I have repeatedly made those calls over to the Sarasota County Medical Examiner's office, the medical examiner that serves that district. I have not been able to get a response. This is very much in the hands of the FBI. So we anticipate getting something, but it could be still a couple more weeks, a few more weeks. And it all depends on the quality in which the remains were found. We know that it was a partial skull, but we just don't know how much they have to work with as far as the forensic examination that's currently underway.
And of what they have, do they have the part of the remains that would allow them to determine a cause of death? Because that's huge, right? If they have partial remains, do they have the part that would be the evidence that would say he died this way? This is how he died. And we don't know that. We don't know that.
And to give viewers a little bit of context there, and this is just giving an example, let's say that, there was a gunshot wound and they're able to have that skeletal piece of remains that was recovered. In that case, you would be able to maybe make that determination of the cause of death. But as Walt said, if this was, let's say, for example, an overdose, that could be something that we never find out, because my understanding from talking with experts is you would get nowhere with toxicology. There was no tissue, there was no fluid, nothing like that.
Same with the drowning. It could be a drowning, right? Same with the drowning. Right.
So I'm going to explain in a second exactly what we're going to be doing over the next hour, because clearly there is no massive update that we're here to talk to you about. We're talking about when the next steps might occur, what the process might look like from here, and again, what the timeline looks like going forward, not the timeline in reverse. We have a lot of questions and comments coming in with the hashtags you see on your screen, as we do here interactively on WFLA Now. You can use hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyMassa, or hashtag HeyJB. If we see one of those comments, we can pluck them out of the YouTube Live, Facebook Live comment sections, or on Twitter. We can animate them on screen. If you don't want your comment to be featured, just don't use the hashtag, and we'll let your comment continue to scroll up on screen. We'll start here from Facebook from Leanne Swim, and we'll try to go through these really quickly. Hashtag HeyJB, have Gabby's parents spoke out yet regarding Brian's death? I've been in contact with with Gabby Petito's family. They are not speaking yet. That could be changing in the future. I think you'll be hearing more from them in the future, but right now the family is continuing to kind of stay internal with their communication. Linda Savage on YouTube, hashtag HeyJB. What does the Laundrie's house looked like since they said that Brian was found? Guys, it's a great question, because we know that the demonstrations were occurring outside of the home there on the street in Northport, and it's considerably more quiet than it has been as it was in September and into early October.
I think one thing that happened here, you know, we went from, I was covering this story every single day for several weeks. And then it just, I don't know, once we, it just stopped. It just stopped. So we are not, even Brian Enton from News Nation, that has been giving constant updates, that I think was essentially living outside of the laundry house. It felt like at some point he was actually in a hotel nearby. But even he has now moved on to another story. It's
Yeah,
just,
he's
it's just
focusing
a
on
very-
Astroworld at the
yeah.
moment. I spoke to him yesterday, and he's focusing on what's going on in Astroworld. He, of course, reports for News Nation, very much on our team here at WFLA. We are very much affiliated with News Nation as part of Next Star Nation. But
Part
yeah,
of the family.
part of the family is Brian Enton. But yeah, he might be returning to Florida at some point to continue on this story. But right now, he's focusing on Astroworld. Mas, I want to get to this comment here really quickly and explain what we're going to be doing here on the stream. Andrew W. on YouTube, hashtag KJB, Masa and Walt. Will the FBI give a final detailed report on findings and details of the case to the public? Do they do that in other cases? This is one of the many unanswered questions that remain, one of the many questions that we get fielded all the time. Even though we haven't been streaming on WFLA Now the last couple of weeks on this story specifically, we've been covering other stories on WFLA Now, as we do here in Florida. We still get endless amounts of phone calls, text messages, I mean DMs, emails. Masa and Walt, you guys, I know we
And I don't
still.
know, sorry, I'm not able to cover it every day.
So
Crazy. All right, where do you guys want to go now? Do you want to talk about Astroworld, or do you want to talk about Heidi Planck? Brian Laundrie is innocent. Well, he's certainly dead. I don't know if he's innocent. So we had one of our members here go to the building today, actually, or maybe yesterday, and they took a whole bunch of pictures and got a good feel for what's going on at the building. And it's right next to Staples Center, and it is definitely got a large transient population at the base. So yeah, here, let me just bring up some pictures here. Is this the one? Oh. Nope. I had it. I'll go get it again. But anyway, this is like the 8th floor. This is where there's like a games room and things. And this connects directly across to the Staples Center. So basically what she was telling me was that like these stairwells, everyone can go up and down them. There's not like you don't need a fob to go up and down or anything like that. Hi, Karine. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great.
There might be an echo. Let me just turn YouTube off real quick.
You're good.
Can you
You're
hear
good.
me?
A little bit of an echo, but you're good.
Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm watching this video. I had to call in. You're asking for people to call in. I'm dumbfounded by this video, actually.
Which one?
The written, what you're posting about the, that just shocked me with the people that were showing up as the militia. I guess I didn't see that originally when it happened back then.
Right.
But just like as an American, I'm pro-gun, not pro-gun, but, Second Amendment rights. But I guess my opinion of that is that it's to protect your own home, your property, your family, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just showing up, like I wouldn't, like my husband's in the military, that he's in the National Guard. That's what the National Guard is for. If there's a crisis and we need people to show up and, it's not to hurt people or kill people, it's to protect property and people's lives. So just the fact that this militia showed up there, aside from Rittenhouse, he's a young kid that was probably influenced from Facebook, from this guy that's pushing that whole notion of show up and protect everybody. And I think he was probably peer pressured into that.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me. Like the video you showed, I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, I think that New York Times did an amazing job on that video. It's
great. Like that is just not, and I'm a patriot. Like I love America. It's Veterans Day tomorrow. You know, my husband's a veteran, but that's just not what, in my opinion, what the Second Amendment is about. To just show up with your AR-15 or 47, whatever, AK, and just shoot people. You know, I don't know. And I think that young kid is becoming a scapegoat for, 17. I did a lot of things as a 17-year-old, not with a weapon, but where you're influenced. You're not an adult at 17, whether you can be tried as one or not. So
Yeah.
that's just my take on it. And I think it was great that you showed that video, because I actually hadn't seen it until you just showed it. So
I thought it was a great video. It just kind of gives you a good map time. It shows you
Right.
exactly where everybody was. It shows you, where they were moving to. It shows you all those burnt out cars.
Which was that whole scene. It looked like a war zone. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
With everything just looked gray and black. Like, what? This is America? I don't know. But
Yeah.
and
I
then
think if Kyle was a little bit older, maybe those shootings don't occur.
I agree.
mean, he kind of went looking for trouble too. Like that, when he started to get into that trouble, he was going to investigate other cars that were being vandalized.
Totally agree. I think if you're, I'm 30, so I think if you're over 21, maybe 25, old, like, you just know better, right? But if somebody's put that guy, I can't remember his name, but the organizer of the militia,
Yeah.
he's pushing that on Facebook. And then, if you're smart I come from a small town. If you're from a small town and this, guy used to be a political figure is like putting this out on Facebook and making it seem like this is the movement kind of thing, right? You feel like you're part of something as a young kid. And I think he turned into something that he had never intended to become. And he was scared. And I think that's why he did what he did. I think he was scared.
Oh, he
And
was
he should have
definitely
never been there,
scared.
know?
Yeah. No, and I mean, even if he would have stood by the older gentlemen that were trained in the
Right.
military and the Marines, I think he would have been just fine. But it was the fact that he went out and he was looking for the trouble,
Right.
and that trouble found him pretty quickly.
Right. What's your take? I mean, I know you're from Canada, so it's just different, but like, what's your take on these just organized militias showing up with weapons and creating their own military? That's, not really
Yeah.
what they're meant to do with the Second Amendment. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if people are gonna loot that vehemently and destroy
Yeah.
buildings, like, I don't know. Like, I think,
Right.
I mean, they could have showed up without guns. That I would agree with more.
Mm-hmm.
But because you guys have your Second Amendment, I guess I mean, even this medic, he showed up with a gun. So
Yeah.
that's the problem when you don't have gun control laws, is everybody
Mhm.
shows up with a gun and it just escalates, right?
Right. I get it.
And the
So.
first shooting, I mean, Kyle heard 3 shots from behind him. I
Mhm.
mean, that would have made me pee my pants. And
Absolutely. As a 17-year-old kid, that's never,
exactly.
he's not like you said, he's not a trained Marine. I think we should leave the protecting of life and property to the people that are trained, right? So,
100%.
there's National Guard. These National Guard guys get paid absolutely nothing. They get a bad name, but all their job is to go into communities that have hurricanes, tornadoes, violence, whatever, and protect life and property. And they don't go and shoot people and kill people. They're there to just be a presence. So I think maybe we just let them do their thing. I
But
don't
at the
know.
same time, this all happened because a guy was brandishing a knife, and a police officer, a trained individual,
Mhm.
shot that individual
Right.
as he was reaching into a car. So,
Right.
I mean, that
Yeah.
guy was trained, and
But the military is just so different. Like, they're
yeah.
trained differently.
No, agreed.
So,
They're
anyway.
definitely amazing.
Yep. So that's all I had to say. I'm glad you covered that. I never would have seen the video if I didn't see it from you. So I appreciate your coverage, and good to talk to you.
Yeah.
And your bunny's so cute. I love it.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's being a bit of a pain right now. She's scratching.
I'm sure. She's like, as soon as you get on live, she's probably like, hey, I want attention.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
All right. Thanks so much, Gavis. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So, yeah, I can't bring up those other pictures, but basically I'm going to go back to talking about the the Heidi Planck case. So one of our viewers went and drove around all the different sites today. And one of the biggest things that she saw is she actually made it down. Her phone ran out of power after taking all these videos and all these pictures. These are people that she had met at, I believe, in the lobby on her way up. And they were basically, they wanted to party. And so this is the helipad. And these guys are drunk. And they could make it all the way up to the top, no problem. So it's very, very lack in security at this building. I can see how, you know, we had a couple of different theories, the Sugarmans or Aaron Gill, or maybe she just got carjacked and someone, you know, stole her vehicle. EH Rebel says, prove me wrong because I'm not. And I think Rebel was the one that said that Brian Laundrie was innocent. I'm not sure if he's innocent. In what way, Rebel? I love this. I thought the guy on the right was pointing at her. The guy on the right was pointing at her. Which situation, Cars? This guy? I think he's just drunk and being silly. So apparently on the penthouse floor, there's an NFL football player, and there is a gaming group called Evil Geniuses that occupy like the top floor. Sugarman is apparently a part of a cryptocurrency company called something coin, and our member thinks that there's a connection there to Sugarman. There very well could be, and then I'm thinking that there's a connection with Aaron Gill to the penthouse because that's kind of what he did in Chicago. We have to dig into it a little bit deeper and see if there wasn't just fully understand what Aaron Gill's involvement is in building this property. So apparently the CB Richard Ellison guys, they had basically started this project. And then after that, Aaron Gill and the Sugarmans came in, and I think they developed it after that. And then the Ellison brokerage is the ones that were selling. So there's a bunch of things we need to understand in the development of this. But the really big thing that came out today is that when Dawn was going into the basement, level 5, she saw an area where there was like high chain link fence and a Range Rover that looked like Heidi's backed in behind that big fence right next to a trash compactor. So hopefully the police aren't as inept as others that we've seen, and maybe they should get in there and check out that car and check out that garbage bin. But very suspicious. Very suspicious. But we still have to do some more homework there, guys. We definitely got to figure out how those connections work, because the Sugarmans have been doing this crazy game with Bank of California. They know all the legal loopholes. They know when they're going to get caught. I just can't see the Sugarmans killing Heidi or anything like that. So I'm still hung on that Aaron Gill guy for some reason. And I read somewhere that he was a big part of the development of this project, and not just a commission salesman or something like that. We will get this solid. Still got a little ways to go. Yep, for sure, Don. Absolutely. I got one of those air fresheners, and I think I turned it up too high because it's one of those misters, and it's making me cough. Let's see what Melissa says here. Probably would not happen in Canada. Canadians in general are more accepting of people in their communities. Unfortunately, still so much racism exists in the U.S. It's disgusting. Yeah, we don't have a lot of racism in Canada. We have a few black people, but I honestly don't think there's that many. Most of them play in the CFL. One of my good friends, he played for the CFL team here, and we go golfing all the time. He's a really good guy, but yeah, it's not that prevalent. Don't time me out. Prove me wrong. Rebel, you see the StreamYard? Get on here, man. I'll fix you in a hurry. No worries, man. Yeah, Alyssa, don't time him out. I love people like that. Come on, Rebel, call in. And anybody else can call in too. I mean, I love it when we get different opinions. Like if anybody's done some work on this Heidi Planck case, if you've got some other angle that you've been chasing, and it's it might be just a whisker thin lead, but I don't want to miss any angle that we can look at, right? So that gaming one was a new one that came up today, connected to evil geniuses. But we got the big players in here, the Sugarmans and Aaron Gill, in my opinion. That's the most Canadian you've ever sounded, Gavis. Yeah, true enough. True enough. All right, well, I want to go get a pop because my throat is cracking on me here. Is the sound sound okay on this?
Unanswered
Or should I
questions
turn
that
it
we
up?
get fielded our way. So what we did and what we decided to do, actually, well, something I decided to do. What we did was we published a story on
Be right back. I'm gonna get a drink.
WFLA.com, and I put this out on social media about a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago to 2 weeks ago, and I asked folks what I was having a conversation with somebody recently.
Rebels all talk. You won't call in. I like it, Aaron. Come on, guys, goat them in. We'll set them straight. I was going to call in on Rittenhouse, but I haven't got anything worth beans for the Planck case. Well, call in on Rittenhouse. I mean, that's what's happening right now. I mean, that poor kid is sitting in court. Like he took a stand in his own defense. Like that never happens. But I think it was critical. And then his crying today. I don't know if you guys believe that crying, or my neighbor on the right is East Indian and on my left is a native. Across the street, black family. So I think we are doing better in Canada, accepting our neighbors. Yes, I think for sure. They call Canada a melting pot, and I do think we are a melting pot here in Canada. And yeah, I'm certainly not racist in any way, shape, or form. Okay, thanks, Carly. But yeah, I'm gonna keep this playing, and yeah, if you guys can muster up the courage to call in, I mean, let's talk about everything. There's all kinds of things out there. The Summer Wells interview was crazy today. I think we're gonna get some information. I think that WFLA has some sort of a inside scoop that the families were notified today about some new news or something. I think we're going to get something in the next few days, or at least I'm really hopeful that we do. Kyle is not an Oscar level yet. No, he certainly isn't. That was, keep in mind, he's still really young though, right? And I just can't help but thinking back to those two situations when he was trying to get, when he fell down and that other crazy dude chasing him. I mean, that's a split-second decision. And he could have been in a world of hurt very, very quickly if he didn't do what he did. So I'm still on the fence. I still have to see more that comes out in this case to understand. I grew up in Orlando with a lot of diversity growing up. I didn't realize how bad it was. Well, that was the other thing Dawn was saying today when she was down at the Hope and Flower, is it was quite a large transient population right down there by the Staples Center, and it doesn't, it didn't seem like it was a very safe place to be. And because of COVID, they were renting out those apartments for basically anything that they could. So it attracted a whole different clientele in there. And maybe that alone is enough to, maybe that's how Heidi disappeared. Maybe someone just saw her with her dog and figured, oh, this is a rich chick. We're going to, get her. And, Dawn thinks that she might be still alive. So maybe she is. She's tied up in one of those apartments and she's still alive. But, well, I guess we could hope. Worked out for Cleo. Allie.
Hi.
You're interrupting my...
No, keep on with your rant. I'll run my mouth after.
It was my excuse to go get another Pepsi, but...
Oh, okay.
I was going to go sneak another cigarette.
So I'm just all kinds of ruining your plans.
Oh, that's all right. So you wanted to talk about Rittenhouse?
Not with a camera or mic.
Yeah, the I think, like, when I think about these things, I try to think from more than one angle, right? Because I'm probably the whitest native you'll ever see.
Right.
My mom taught us to lie when we were kids. If anybody asked if we were from the res, we were supposed to tell them no. But then you go around your family there, and they have their own kind of accent. And if you come back to school talking like that, they know you're a liar.
And you haven't tried to offer me BBs or cheap native reserve smokes? What's going on?
They freaking discontinued them here.
Did they?
Yeah, I used to be able to get them for $100 for $10. And they were like just as good as Marlboros. I don't know what happened. No, the place I used to go get my cigarettes on the res here, they sell legal tea leaves now.
Oh, God. Those are all natural ones or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible.
Build your own.
Right.
But I think that the police chief said it best when he said, I think that everybody who was there played a role in things. I think it's a situation where you have extremists on three different angles, and when there's not much middle ground between people is when that kind of stuff happens. He was a kid. I mean, shame on his mom for driving him down there with a gun, because you're putting your own baby at risk right off the bat.
Is
if
that
that's what happened? I saw somebody say it, but I don't know if it's true. If it's true, then, shame on her. I'm a mom, and I would never take my kid down to be in a militia. But with the other guy saying that he had buddies with him, it might have been just him and his buddies too.
Yeah. True.
The militia guys also said that they didn't know them prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it just sounds like a whole group of those guys banded together from that Facebook post, right? And
I think he was a kid in a really scary situation, trying to do what he felt in his young mind was right.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to make a decision in literally a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
And it isn't like he went out and shot somebody that was just standing in the street or walking by. This is somebody that lunged at him, so he didn't know if they had a knife or something and they were about to stab him either.
And he also heard 3 gunshots.
Right before that, so he doesn't know if he has a handgun or what.
Plus, he's hearing footsteps go pop, pop, pop right behind him. So, yeah, I'd have filled my shorts, definitely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the case today or what somebody was talking about, him crying.
Yeah, he was on the stand today and he was being asked about, how he shot the first guy. And yeah, it was awful. The prosecutor today is
Of course he's going to cry. He's a 17-year-old kid in a really crappy position.
But he's been absolutely stoic throughout all this questioning. And he's been like dead on. And like, even when the prosecutor's trying to trip him up, he goes back and corrects him. And the prosecutor will ask him the same question. I think he asked him the one question like 6 times, like back to back to back to back. And it was just like nothing short of badgering a witness. It was horrible.
That's awful.
Being a nuisance.
I agree with the chief of police there that when you have them intense situations like that, I mean, even a grown adult, if you got somebody lunging at you and there was just gunfire, you would explicitly say that they did it on purpose. She's so stinking cute. Oh, she's so cute. I love her colors.
Yeah, no,
I hope you have baby bunnies because she'll throw some pretty babies.
That's exactly why I got her, is because she's all different colors, and you'll just get a whole bunch of different things out of her.
I wish I had something valuable to say about Heidi Planck, because that case is sad. And
we got to start digging to the 9th level on this stuff. Like, we've got the basics right now, but we got to start digging into Sugarman, and we got to start digging into that Aaron Gill, and then trying to find some video. Like, hopefully the police will give us some of that video they have. I don't think these guys are going to be caught on video, though. I think that there's too many open stairwells. There's too many ways in and out. There's an entrance from the Staples Center. Like, there's stores and shops that it's connected to.
Right.
It's not just people in that building. It's this is a
anybody could have been anybody.
Yeah.
And the people in her life, everybody's got some kind of shadiness going on.
Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but
so I agree that I don't think her husband's involved in it.
Right, and her ex-boyfriend, I think he's a pretty good guy as well. I think the one that she was apparently ghosting or whatever, I think that he's just come up from such a good family and a community that I just don't suspect him at all anymore.
I didn't, but Mo brings up some good points when it comes to him, but a lack of information on him can't really give you one way or the other either.
That's what I'm saying, is we got to start trying to tie these guys to the 9th level and you know what their consequences would have been. Like, if we can find out that, you know, Gill was borrowing money from a Chicago mob or something like that. I don't know. If the Sugarmans saw their buddy go to jail for 15 years.
Right.
If they knew they were next on the list. Like, we got to dig really hard into each one of those events and try to pinpoint where and what. Yeah, pinpoint where and what. And I don't know, typically find out what a developer would get if it was financed by another group. Like, maybe this Aaron Gill guy never got paid, and that's what this meeting was about. And right. So usually it starts and ends with money, and follow the money.
That leads in pretty much one direction exclusively.
Yeah. These guys are dealing with some big numbers, so it's all relative, right? So
right. All right, I'm gonna get off here and let anybody else or who wants to talk go.
All right, I'm gonna go get a pop.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. All right, back to JB. Yeah, watch Masa in this. She doesn't like Walt today for some reason. I don't know why.
Thrown in front of my face, just a friend. And we were talking about, man, if there was one question that you could get answered in this case, what would it be? And it
number 10 for me.
It ignited quite the conversation. Right? Quite the conversation. So I decided to put it to our social media audience. I said, hey, if there was one question you really wanted answered in this story, you've been following it now religiously, so many people have around the world. What is that one question? That one question, any one that you could get answered. And so the response online was very loud, vocal. and throwing questions our way. And then, of course, I continuously get questions now around the clock from people around the world on this story. So we organized here the top 10 questions that we get fielded our way on the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie story. We're going to go through them here on this stream one by one. But if you want to read it and you don't want to spend the next hour hearing it, of course, you're more than welcome. Grab a cup of coffee if you'd like, a beverage, hang out with us here over the next hour or so. We're going to be going over these questions. But if you'd like to read it for yourself, especially for people that aren't watching live right now, maybe you found this video after we're live, you can just click on the link in the description on this YouTube video. On Facebook, it does live forever, Masa. It does. And you can find this list that we're going to go through, the top questions that remain unanswered from you, our audience members on WFLA Now watching from around the world. You see number 10 there. So Masa, Walt, if you guys are ready, we'll go through it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to start here with question number 10. And we were just talking about it. And it is, what is Brian Laundrie's cause of death? We don't know, but this is the next logical step with, as far as public information goes, Walt, with where this goes from here. When we're talking about the procedure of an FBI investigation, it's only logical that the next piece of information to drop would be determining how Brian Laundrie died. And this is, I think, a process that has now entered a territory that is longer than it took to determine Gabby Petito's cause of death. And it's just because they're dealing with different remains. The remains were skeletal. It was a partial skull, and the public wants to know the answer to this question.
And theoretically, Brian's remains were out in the wild, and maybe even a wilder area, if you will, than Gabby Petito's remains. So it would seem do not have as much to go with. But yeah, that's the logical next step. Of course, this case has not always been logical, so there could be something else. But this is the next piece of the puzzle that, I mean, you said it. It could be inconclusive. They may not have enough to determine the exact cause of death. And then as far as whether or not the FBI releases that, you would think they'd release it unless it's somehow an ongoing investigation that maybe there's an element we don't know about. But it is obviously something we can only anticipate. And this is something that brings so much speculation about how he died and the manner of death that it's crazy with the theories that are out there.
And to try to answer, will we find out? How will we find out? Who will tell us? I think it makes sense to talk about what happened with Gabby Petito. And in that case, the Teton County coroner, he decided himself that he was going to reveal what he can legally reveal. I asked him, are you in touch with federal authorities? And he said, I'm independent. But we do know that he held off on giving the cause of death. We immediately knew the manner of death, homicide, but he held off on telling us the cause of death for several days because the U.S. Attorney's Office had asked him to do that. But so you wonder with the Sarasota County Examiner, but they are an independent body, but did they get anything? Right.
Did they get heat? Yeah. Or did the Fed say, hey, we don't want another situation to happen the way the coroner in Grand Teton handled it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, but he could still do it.
He could still do it.
But the Sarasota County coroner didn't really find anything out. So then it was shipped out. The remains were shipped out. And with the anthropologist, the question is, I've never been clear. This is around the time when we stopped covering the case every single day, digging. But do we know who the anthropologist is? Is it federal? Is it?
No, it's Dr. Vega. Dr. Vega.
That's the Sarasota County, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were asking. No,
I'm asking.
She's saying, did he contract it out? Do they not have that ability in that office to do this?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So then if the office, what I will go out there and say, if the Sarasota County Examiner determined the manner of death or cause of death, I think they could tell us that. And I think there's reasons, to tell us that. That's what happened with Gabby Petito and Grand Teton. But my understanding is, and I know there was a lot of questions surrounding this by information that we were getting from the coroner, from Brian Laundrie's family attorney, Stephen Bertolino. But I don't know who is the body that is going to tell us. Give us the answers. I thought it was an anthropologist.
I think that Bertolino has talked a lot. He could end up being the one who tells us somehow.
That's true.
Right?
So in the story that we put on WFLA.com, and again, click on the link if you'd like to read it for yourself. I noted we're unsure as to when this, how we're going to learn the answer to this question. Is it going to be that press release? Excuse me. Is it going to be a tweet, a press release, a press conference, or it would not be out of the ordinary for excuse me, everybody, Bertolino to find out first and then announce it himself through his various means, through texting the media, right?
Possible. Absolutely.
Let me ask you this question. Is it procedural for them to say that it is the result of suicide, if it is suicide?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, he's talking about like sensitivities around suicide, but I don't think that would apply in this case at all.
No, I think
they would tell
they'll
us.
release it because I think
whatever they get, they're going to tell us. Whoever
Yeah.
gets said whatever
I do
they
too.
get about
I do
Brian
too.
Laundrie, cause
If
and
we're
manner.
getting
That's the one
calls-
thing I can tell you we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get much more
Well,
unless
right.
there's a
So
proceeding. But
right.
yeah.
So now, then the question is, do they offer any more insight on the days leading up to Gabby Petito's
That's a
final
different
moments?
question. Yep.
And
Gabby Petito
and do they?
or Brian Laundrie?
Gabby Petito, because do they have they somehow learned something? Maybe whether it's in the notebook or timing of his death. I don't know. It just because I think that's also a big unanswered question that people have is what happened, what exactly happened in those final days.
Didn't we have a connection to like the mayor or something? Can't we petition him to go and try to get that coroner's report? It should be done by now. I know they were trying to talk to that forensic anthropologist, but my God, they've had so much time now. It should be done by now, right? I'm just gonna mute those guys. No callers? Alyssa, you're not gonna call in?
There's an expectation from the public that this question gets answered. I'm just very curious as to what that timeline looks like and how long.
Oh yeah, the other thing we need to go and make sure that we haven't missed something is on Kylan and Crystal. Do we have full autopsy reports from those two girls? We should, that story is losing so much traction in the news. It's really sad. I can't help but feel for Sean Paul. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Hi, I'm Sear. I'm from Santa Cruz, California, and boy, I've been following all of your cases, especially the first one, of course, Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito.
Yeah.
Such a sad story, but I live in a town that's very unusual. It's kind of a destination place.
Mm-hmm.
And on, I guess, some of their live streams, I saw Santa Cruz in one of their pictures on the beach, like 11 blocks from where I live.
Right.
And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's gonna come back here. He's gonna come back to Santa Cruz at some point. So I was really following it with all my attention.
Yeah, that was the first trip that they took in the Nissan Sentra in the back of a car.
Oh, okay.
They rented it, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that he was really familiar with this town. And, sadly, like many places, we've got a huge homeless situation here. And now they're, really almost like a quarter of the town. They've taken up this large park where they've got a a camping area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to disappear in there. I mean, the cops don't even want to go down there. It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, runaways and drug addicts and young people get lost.
Yeah, I saw a really interesting documentary. I've actually been looking into this homeless situation, and it was a documentary on basically meth.
Yeah.
And apparently this police officer was trying to understand, like, how come, like, even nationwide there was these big up and down swings with people that were incarcerated in crime, and they all correlated to the same curve, even though it was different towns and different policing. And what he discovered is that it was related to the cartels and the purity of the meth that they were putting
Yes.
out.
Oh my gosh, you're so
And
right. Yeah.
and so one of these officers actually went and he shut down those suppliers, and a lot of these suppliers were in like India, where they could get the perfect
Uh-huh.
pseudoephedrine or the components, right? Because it's fairly
Yeah.
easy to make, but to get the purity up as high as they had it, the cartels were like way up here compared to
Raking
what.
it in. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were just putting the most incredible stuff on the street to get these people addicted, and
Yeah.
so
And now it's fentanyl, because now they've sourced a lot of the source comes from China, and it's just this fentanyl, which is a medicine, I guess, used in surgery or something like that, but it's like 5 times stronger than meth.
I heard it's like way even worse
More than
than
that.
that.
I mean, you even touch it, you're not even supposed to touch it because it comes into your skin, through your skin.
I've heard some of those guys that use like those automatic pressers or whatever,
Uh-huh.
they could press it and get too many crystals in one pill, and boom, you're dead.
Oh, right. And that's the thing with fake drugs, is that, of course, anyone can get materials and then get a press kit, like you're talking about, some kind of a pill kit. And it just is, they're pharmacists, basically, like Breaking Bad, and stuff comes on the market and it may look like a pharmaceutical, but it's not. It's something fake. And people, I mean, there have been, I don't know how many this year, in fact, but last year I believe it was 66 ODs in Santa Cruz.
Oh, I know even
And
in
now
my
it's even higher. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
in my town, the fentanyl is the killer around
Yeah.
here, especially. And I think they've even manufactured a hybrid of fentanyl, and
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
it's called caro fentanyl,
Oh
and
man.
apparently this is like 100 times stronger than
Yeah.
regular fentanyl. So yeah, it's scary, scary stuff. This
It is. And why, it's almost seemingly like it's a direct attack. Why would we even have these drugs manufactured if they're so deadly dangerous, and how would they get ever on the market? Who's got the recipe for them,
Well, you don't need much. You could send a letter from China over to anywhere, and that's enough
Oh,
fentanyl
wow.
to kill 70 people.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Well, I know that, Americans sometimes were trying to get medicine from Canada because it was cheaper, and our, medical system is so messed up.
Mhm.
But, just generally things were easier to get. But they are very restrictive in Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz generally, and California is very restrictive with medicines, but they're just kind of late on the ball game. They're late to the party because it started maybe with opiates and overprescribing. But I do agree that I think that methamphetamine is the worst. That's what's causing the homeless problem in part.
Yeah, that and the economy is just getting shot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But so just to follow up on the situation with these lost people, because we do have a society of seemingly lost people, and whether or not it's mental illness or family breakdowns, economy, or drug abuse, there's commonality there, and there is a criminality below some of this. And I think that it's good for neighbors to watch out for neighbors, when new people move in, get to know them, and, so that there is a community balance. We're all looking after each other.
Yeah, no, that's that goes back to the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
This wasn't, in my opinion, I don't think it was as prevalent as it is today. And
No, it's not. Yeah.
part of that is these communities are being fractured, and people just stick to themselves, go to work,
Yeah.
come home.
There's little towns in Central California that are actually like outside cities, and they're just developments. I mean, that's their community, a development. So
Yeah.
that's not really town. So anyway, thanks for letting me chat.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, Ann.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, crazy, crazy world. All right, we'll keep going with JB, and then we'll shut her down here pretty quick. But yeah, if you guys want to call in, there's quite a few things to talk about. And court tomorrow, hopefully we'll get some information.
To conclude their examination and then, of course, deliver those results to the FBI. But there is this public expectation through those various experts that have been on national news talking about this story that this is expected sometime in the next 3 weeks. Let's see if we can get to a question that came in. How about KPZ1234 on YouTube? Hashtag Hey Masa for you. Masa would love more legal analysis from you, given your background. We're going to get to some more legal analysis from Masa. Former New York City prosecutor is Masa Saidi, but you have anything to say for?
I mean, there's not a question, so no, I don't have anything to say.
But yes,
just more legal analysis on. Got it, guys. I will do that.
Tapping into
good advice.
Masa's legal expertise, and then tapping into Walt's expertise in covering many FBI investigations.
He's been around many years.
I knew that was coming from Masa Saidi over there.
Let's get to number 9 here. Will the FBI, and this goes back to the commenter that we had a short time ago, and let's see if we can bring that comment on screen. It comes from Andrew. So now it's okay. So now it's all here. Will the FBI ever release their findings in the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie investigation? Andrew on YouTube, hashtag AJB, all the hashtags. Will the FBI give a final
Speaking of so many domestic violence cases by people who should be trusted, 2 of the Turpin daughters will be speaking. Okay, cool. Carly's back.
Hello.
What's happening?
I wanted to talk about that Don Wells thing.
Oh, okay.
That just blew my whole mind today.
What were you wanting to bring up here?
Like, I watched part of the interview a few days ago, but it was just the part where he was actually on StreamYard with them. I didn't see the part before until earlier where he didn't know his own daughter's birthday. And Candace didn't know either. And I was like, what? That's your child. I can tell you right now what both my kids weighed, exactly what time they were born, and their birthdays. What are you talking about? You don't know what your daughter's birthday is? Are you serious? Oh, that blew my whole mind.
Yeah, mine too. That's somebody had linked to me in Discord to come check it out at 1:40, and I'm like, oh my God. This is just crazy. And there's 3.5 hours of this. I don't know if I could sit through all of this.
I don't think it's 3. I know that like she was in the middle of the live stream and he called her in the middle of the live stream. Yeah, that's where I think that started like an hour and a half in. Like she just gets a phone call and it's Don Wells, and like they were on the phone for a minute and she's like explaining to him how to get on the StreamYard, and oh man. Oh, it was just the worst thing. And then later in like when he's on camera, you can actually hear him get physical with Candace, and it's disgusting.
Wow.
Oh my God, the whole video. Oh.
So who do you think? What do you think of the 3 scenarios? The red Toyota, or do you think the brothers, or do you think the parents are responsible?
I can't even begin to like speculate on exactly what happened, because I've seen so many videos. Like there's a video from their back porch, and it's showing the backyard, and there's several like broke down vehicles in their backyard, and I was like, wow guys, this isn't helping your case. What is this video for? Yeah. And this was released after she was taken, so I'm like, I don't understand.
I heard somebody say that they had something like 7 or 8 dogs, and
there was like 12 dogs
or 12 dogs.
And apparently they have like a dog kennel thing. Like people, I don't know about anybody else, but if I had a dog, I fucking wouldn't drop my dog off there.
Yeah.
But like people in town would drop their dog off with these people. And so in this video, yeah, you see like 4 of these dogs just laid out. And I'm like, what is really happening here? And again, I don't understand how if this was supposed to help them in their case somehow, because it didn't.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, I know
it's so bad.
I grew up on a farm and I only had 1 dog. And if anybody came in our driveway, like they were right on them instantly. Like it wasn't They could have been half a mile away. They'd still, oh, there's someone at the house. I got to go check.
Oh
And
my
if you
God.
had 15 dogs, there's nobody that's sneaking into that tetanus infested area to get a snatch a girl.
You have to have 14 of the laziest dogs.
Well, no, you'd have to be braver than hell. Have you seen the backyard there? Like, it looks something like
Yeah,
out of
I
a
mean,
horror
there's
movie.
a lot of places to hide if you see all the abandoned
No,
vehicles. And
I'm just saying, look at the
it's
house.
so
Like,
dumb.
I would be terrified to approach that house because I would
There's,
be like, oh, there's got to be a double barrel shotgun coming out of there right quick.
and you know those boys got taken as soon as Summer was kidnapped or whatever. I can't even say that she was kidnapped. I have no idea. But those boys were taken by the state like immediately, which is fantastic because there's still more footage of like inside their house. Children shouldn't live there. Like
No.
humans shouldn't live there. Those dogs shouldn't live there.
They shouldn't have reproduced.
Oh, it's so bad. And so I can't even begin to speculate anything. It's the weirdest case. And these people just don't care either, like at all.
The reason why I didn't pick up this case is because unfortunately I think it was one of the two older brothers. I think they were roughhousing and they might have killed her. They were talking about how tough she was and she would take a stick and hit them, and I could just imagine total anarchy in that family with no parental supervision whatsoever. And I think one of the two older boys might have taken it a bit too far, and knowing their backgrounds, I think they would have been able to find a way to hide her body somewhere. So that's why I didn't want to look at that.
They have so much like property there too. But I mean,
Yeah.
you'd think they'd be able to find if they buried. I don't know. It's weird.
They're little country kids. Trust me, they know what they're doing. They'll know someplace where no one will look.
They don't even know not to fight each other on camera, and that's the adults in the family. I don't know how much I trust those kids.
That's kind of where my head was going. And then I think the mom, Candace, she had passed a polygraph, and yeah, I don't think the dad was even there. I think he was working. He didn't come home till later.
Or in jail. I think he was recently in jail for a DUI or something.
Yeah, that could have been just because there's more people watching them now. I think that they've been into the moonshine probably for the past couple decades. So just a speculation. Just a speculation.
From the sounds of it, yeah.
Right.
That's some of those videos. That's some of the most country. Nope. I don't know what's going on with that whole family.
Yeah, agreed. Anybody else want to call in? Mo, you want to call in? Yeah, relink.
All right. I'll hop off here so somebody else can get on.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you for coming back in and saving me the dead airspace.
I do what I can.
It's all good. All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Hey.
Hello.
What's shaking?
How's it going?
Good. We covered quite a few things tonight, and we got some more things to dig on Heidi Planck. So
yes. Oh my gosh, that is it's feeling all too familiar. Seems like these cases, the more you dig, you follow the money, and it's people who are powerful with lots of connections. So I'm sad I missed the beginning of this with Dawn and everything, but I cannot wait to dig in because I think we have some work to do.
we definitely do. So definitely, like, I think the Sugarmans are too smart. That's just my gut hunch. But I do think that this Aaron Gill guy got the short end of the stick. He played with the big boys one time too many, and I think something went on here, but I don't know what it is yet. But it could also just be as simple as a transient person got in there and just wanted to take her car. So, no idea. Crazy, crazy. Well, Boots is having a good old time on the couch. She's ripping back and forth right now. She's getting much more comfortable.
In details of the case, of the public, do they do that in other cases, Walt?
Not really, they don't. I think that a lot of these cases can get closed for years, but we're talking cases that got adjudicated. Again, we find out what the FBI found out in court. That's where we find out, unless there's a leak, and there are occasional FBI leaks. I would say that there's no guarantee we're getting a final detailed report on this. They don't have to give us that. I don't know if the information they have or the evidence that they have, I'd like to think I'm an expert on public records, but I don't know all the answers. I don't know that those are public at this point because they have not been released in court. It's evidence, right? We can get whatever they go to court with. We can get search warrants sometimes from the feds, and that will have some information about what they told the judge in order to get a particular search warrant. But will we find out what's in that notebook? Was there anything in the notebook? Will we find out everything in the backpack? Not necessarily. And do they do that in other cases? The other cases I know about got investigated and adjudicated. But when a person of interest dies as a person of interest and never becomes a suspect, I'll ask Moss Society a legal question. Can somebody who is a person of interest become a suspect posthumously?
I don't even understand that question. You've gone back and forth a million times.
You're
Like,
a person of
okay,
interest.
you name, hold on.
You're a
You name
person of
someone a
interest.
suspect.
No,
You
no,
name
no,
him a
no, no.
suspect.
They're a person of interest.
I don't.
They die.
Uh-huh.
Can they then become a suspect?
I don't know. I mean, they're not going to file criminal proceedings to go after them.
right.
So that's the answer that I'm going to give
Okay,
you.
so-
But
and
will
that- so is
someone
that a
want to?
no, or you s-
But could they? Okay, so they're not going to file criminal charges to put Brian Laundrie in jail since he's dead.
So he doesn't need to be a suspect.
However, could some entity refer to him as a suspect and say, come out with some finding and refer to him as a suspect?
I was watching another show last night, and it was I don't know if you guys remember Avery, but she had recently actually went to do boots on the ground in her hometown, and there was a guy that left a bar, and the police found him. He died, but he stripped off all of his clothes and he was naked, and they don't know how he died. It's pretty crazy. And then we have Daniel Robinson, same thing. All of his clothes were left at that scene. And then there was a third person, another man that was naked and found. So I don't know, maybe these street drugs are getting so crazy now that people are losing their mind or something. I don't know. Just a weird thought. How all these men are showing up naked. But it's definitely getting more women to get out there and get the boots on the ground, just in case there's some naked men running around. I was working on lots of stuff on Robinson today. It is so weird to think how related it is to Jelani Day. Yeah, that's the other one, Jelani Day. Yeah, and there's another one in, I think it's Arkansas, if you want to look into that. The one that Avery brought up yesterday. Yeah, we definitely do need some more data on him. Come here, Bootsy. What else was I going to say? Yeah, we really need to double check those autopsy reports on Colin and Crystal, because I mean they're buried now. That should be part of that Freedom of Information Act, right? I mean, the coroner should be the first bit of news that comes out, and I'm surprised that we don't have any of those details. But maybe again the FBI is holding that back. I don't know.
Like, sure, Walt, that could happen.
I'll say this: I've never heard of somebody who's deceased being named a suspect
Don't
in
you
an
ask me tough
investigation.
questions.
That just sounds.
Yeah.
But you know what though?
Wait. Say that again, JB.
I don't know. I can't recall a single case that I have covered.
Me neither.
Where a deceased individual was named a suspect in an official capacity by a law enforcement agency. It just sounds very, very much out of procedure for whether it's a local police department.
Wasn't Wayne Gacy a suspect in some murders?
Wait. Say that again. JB. I didn't hear you. Wayne Gacy?
I think he was. Wasn't Wayne Gacy a suspect in some murders?
No, he wasn't.
I thought he was. So it's not impossible.
A state agency or the feds.
Right.
So I don't
can't
know.
either.
Let's go to question number 8 here, and to help us with question number 8, it's
the gaming story with Heidi. It's related to evil geniuses and some cryptocurrency.
I'll say this: I've never heard.
Oh, Mark, you're.
It sounds.
I'll mute you for now. So anyway, yeah, evil geniuses, but it says that they were only somewhat involved with that crypto. So
It's going to come in the form of a video.
Did I have that? It was in the evil geniuses. We can go here. I'll try this one. But in 2021, oh, this is the actual team. These guys are also really good. Svenskarian, Jizuke, Impact, Defley, and Ingar. Really, really good players. But there was an affiliation with a cryptocurrency, and there was a lot of that going around where people were putting out these fake cryptos, and they were basically just really, really bad individual cryptos. This has, I think, just about all of them. So there's, oh, see that one went down. There's Doge, Dash, XRP. Where's Ethereum? I'm kind of curious about Ethereum. But anyway, yeah, Bitcoin is making a massive charge right now. We'll see if Mark has got his. Doesn't look like it.
Question, and I want to make sure that I have the name right because we did take some questions, some video questions from the WFLA JB Facebook page last night. And yeah, this comes in from Audrey. Audrey sending this one in Tuesday night.
Hey JB, my name's Audrey. My question to you guys is, what kind of information can we expect from the investigation report? There was never really an indictment for the homicide, just the credit card fraud. So what can we expect to be in there, and what can we expect not to be in there? And also, thank you guys, the whole WFLA fam, for your excellent and compassionate coverage. Thank you.
Thank you to Audrey for sending that in. So she's talking about an indictment. And again, an indictment is predicated on there being charges filed.
Right. So
And
there won't
charges
be an
aren't going to be filed against a deceased individual, which brings us to question number. And again, an indictment is predicated on
Mark,
there being charges filed.
Still got
Right. And
feedback.
charges aren't going to be filed against a deceased
Got
individual,
what?
which brings us to
Still
question
got
number.
feedback. Oh, there you go.
And again, an indictment.
Oh, I'll just mute you for a second. You just have to turn off one of your sources of media. And just use headphones, typically.
You know, alive.
Sure.
Possibly.
And at that point, we'd get plenty of information.
Right. I mean.
All right. Well, on that note, guys, I think we're going to shut it down for tonight and get a good sleep. I'll try to put Boots to bed. She's a little rambunctious right now. And hopefully we get some good news tomorrow. So stay tuned. There'll be more. We'll cover what happens in the Kyle Rittenfeld case, or the court case tomorrow. And I guess just pray for some more news. And we'll do some more digging on Heidi. And if we get some more information on those other individuals, we'll present that tomorrow as well. And we'll do the same thing. We'll go at, I know I was late getting on tonight, but that was because we were trying to review some of the data and we were just a little bit behind. We'll still try to go at 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. I think that's a good time for everyone. It's not too late, and it's not too early that we miss everybody on the East Coast. So thank you guys, and yeah, see you guys tomorrow.